If you want to exercise more than twice a week, you're probably not doing it correctly. The power of negative training. What is negative training? Arthur Jones wrote an article for Iron Man magazine. He said, instead of looking for how much you can lift, if you were a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, you ought to be thinking about how much you can lower. And he came up with a concept of accentuate the negative, that there was real power behind lowering a heavy weight, lowering a machine that's heavier than you can lift. Angel Rodriguez, he lost 121 pounds of fat in 30 weeks, took more than 20 inches off his waist, and put on 20 pounds of muscle. Melissa Norman, she did the best of the women. Now, men have an advantage where losing fat and building muscle are concerned, because they have hormones that facilitate both. So women always lag behind men. Why does this negative training work? I think it has to do with a deeper inroad. Arthur Jones used to say that when you do a repetition with a barbell or a Nautilus machine, you're making about a 2% inroad into your starting level of strength. If you could lift 100 pounds one time, you don't lift 100 pounds one time. You take 80 pounds and try to do it 10 if you're trying to get bigger and stronger. But what happens when you take 80 pounds and you do 10 repetitions? Each repetition, you are decreasing your starting level of strength by about 2 pounds. Let's call it 2%. So when you get down to number 10, you're just a shade stronger than 80 pounds. And it's tough. On your 11th repetition, you're 78 pounds strong. And 78 pounds won't lift 80 pounds on the machine or the barbell. So you fail. So you have made a little over a 20% inroad. But what if instead of lifting 80 pounds, what if you lowered 100 pounds? You lifted 80, you lowered 100. You'd make more of an inroad into that starting level of strength. You might make a 3 or a 4% inroad. So this is what I'm talking about. You're making probably 30 to 50% deeper inroads into your starting level of strength. My theory is that this deeper inroad leads to a fundamental biological priority. Stimulate muscle growth, make it grow, and boy, all kinds of good things happen. What is the breakthrough? It's right there. Negative routine, properly performed, makes a deeper inroad. In doing so, it triggers multiple hormones in higher amounts for greater than normal muscle gain and fat loss. Here's a group we put through in 2012 that were not interested in losing fat, but they were interested in building muscle. So we didn't put them on a reduced calorie diet, but we trained them hard. We only trained them once a week, 1 set, 8 exercises. Here's 4 of the people that did the best. Joe put on 17.4 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks. Can you see a difference there? How about Shane Poole? He was an ex-Army person. He did better than Joe. He put on 19.5 pounds. Nicole, she put on almost 8 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks. Truck, put him on a 2-week program to build his arms, and he already had 19-inch arms. At the end of this program, in 2 weeks, he put on 12.7 pounds of muscle and got his arms up to 20 inches. That's a big arm. But you got to have unusual genetics to have arms that big. Warning. Now, we've talked about building muscle. We've talked about losing fat. This is something that most people who go through this X-Force program, they misunderstand. They think if you go through 6 weeks of X-Force, you need more exercise. You need less exercise. It needs to be harder, briefer, and less frequent. So that's why I was saying earlier, 1 time a week, many times, is better than twice a week. And just about 100% of the time, 2 times a week is better than 3 times a week.